Hi guys, it's been a few days. We're going to pick up where we left off last time and continue this game. Definitely enjoying it. And the world is so imaginative. Like, whoever created the setting, the characters, the creatures, I mean, it's all fantasy stuff. It's all been done before, but there's just such a sense of, like, harshness, like a harsh reality, such gritty, I don't know, feel to this world. I really like it. It feels vibrant because of that. So, let's keep going. I keep an eye out for any sign of life. And probably get jumped. The ruined village. Oh no! Standing in front of the gate, you hear no voices, no tools at work, no steps. Dozens of birds live among the collapsed roofs. Their fluttering, singing, and squawking is free of worries. If you want to travel any further, you need to ride around the palisade. Searching the ruins may take a lot of time. The broken gate in the north will lead you to the village. The sound of a gentle river reaches you from the east, where you see a saggy fence surrounding an overgrown pasture. Behind the burnt building in the east, you see an oddly barren field. I want to take a look at the gate. The palisade is in good shape, and the entrance wasn't even touched by the fire. It was torn away, possibly thrown. The amount of used force must have been huge, but you'd expect that it would push the gate into the village, not away from it. You don't see any marks of a dragon bite. A troll could toss such planks, but after so many years, you see no paw prints. A mage? You can't really tell. Let's look at the building near the field real fast. The broken logs and planks are charred, while the wooden walls are rotten and covered in moss. You see no ashes or dust, proving that the fire happened long ago. The smell is awful, and there are no reasons to stay for long. You see no furniture, just some broken shelves. It was just a storage room. The valuable odds and ends were already taken by the scavengers. We continue. Where do you want to go? Let's check out the village. The buildings, some of which have collapsed, are made of wood, now charred and rotten. You spot claw marks on the walls, especially close to the doors and window frames. They could belong to a dragonling, or a large wolf, larger than the gray ones, or a corpse eater. Too many options to make a guess. Yet no beast remains in sight. You find the remains of clothes, furniture, odds, and ends. Only one object seems to be of use, a basket-like fish trap made of vines and willow branches. If a large fish swims into it, it won't be able to get out on its own. It's quite large, but I can fit it in my saddle, so let's do that. You feel a slight aching in your stomach. Where do you want to go? Aching in my stomach? I'm mostly fed. I mean, look at this. I'm nourished. Obviously, my character must be very, very disturbed by this village. I inspect... the palisade. The tracks of human footwear and many, many more ape footprints. No! Why apes? Cover the path formed around the palisade's breach. As far as you can tell, the freshest footprints lead to the village. The wooden stakes spread on the ground are rotten, covered in mushrooms, small flowers, insects, and worms, a good source of animal or goblin food, though you'd expect them to also hunt for the birds and eggs. The meadow in the west turns into a forest quickly. The grasses in the north surround dozens of tree stumps, already covered with moss and fungi. I'm not going into the forest. The colorful grass covers the entire fenced pasture. The large stone placed in the middle suggests it could be a playground for ibexes, or maybe it's just an old garden. You see a couple of small sheds, a latrine, and a single building to the south, completely burnt down. All of these places were cleaned out by scavengers. Starbucks doesn't want to approach the large ruins in the north. The terrible stench of feces and rotting food scares you off as well. The paths are covered with goblin footprints. It's daytime, so the pack should be asleep. If the beasts were active, they would try to scare you off or hunt down your mount. This is their territory, and once they wake up, you will face a ferocious enemy. I go somewhere else quietly and quickly. My stomach lets out a painful groan. I feel like I should leave soon. What I'm trying to figure out is, why is my stomach so unhappy? Let's go check out the pasture in the southeast real fast. Don't find a single sign of livestock that lived here in the past. Any bones, horns, antlers, or dung have already been devoured by the wilderness. The pasture ends at the river. On the opposite bank, the meadow turns into a thick forest, impenetrable for a rider. What are the chances that a herd of defenseless animals could get there and survive? The breach in the southern fence wasn't made by some brute force. You find axe cuts in the spots that were ultimately broken away. After all these years, there are no tracks that you could follow. You're surrounded by what looks like a field plowed in late autumn, disturbed by hundreds of rains and snowfalls. There's a few clumps of grass and wheat, but a place like this one, abandoned for years, should already have turned itself into a green lea. A barren field? Maybe it was overused, but you still expect the weeds to sprout. A curse? The path leading west from here ends at the edge of the field, shifting into a meadow, then a forest. The closer you are to the village and the longer you stay around, the sicker you feel. The taste of gastric juices hits your mouth. Your forehead hurts. You start to tumble. Starbucks, worried by the sight, pokes your head with its nose. I walk far away. Leaning on your mount, you go outside, keeping your mouth shut. After a few minutes, your eyes get clearer. It may be better to leave, or at least stay away from the village for the rest of the day. You stop and touch your aching stomach. The clearing in the west? I suppose it's time to just keep going. We know there's goblins here, but we don't really know what happened here. We know something burned down. Clearing in the west. The meadow is lush and colorful, and so dense it's unsafe for a rider. For a couple of minutes, you lead Starbucks with a rope, avoiding the potential disaster in case of a hoof falling into an animal den. Being forced to travel around the palisade every time you get here is going to be a pain. Most of the tree trunks look similar and have a comparable size. They were most likely planted with the sole purpose of being cut down and used by the locals, though cutting so many trees at once, that alone could provoke the wrath of the herds. Such a process should be spread across a couple of seasons, and you can't be sure that was the cause. In the west and north, the clearing turns into a wild forest. In the east, you see a road leading north. Still nothing new. Okay, fine. I leave the clearing. I go to the road leading north from the village. You're at the closed northern gate. The neglected road is partially overgrown. You hear a river in the east, separated by the lush meadow filled with crickets and rodents. I go somewhere else. We don't... Maybe I should take a look at the gate. Pushed or pulled, it doesn't move an inch. Someone has spread dirt and rocks both underneath it and around it, seemingly to keep the planks stuck in the ground. I go somewhere else. I head to the river. You see a quenching family of boars, some of them brown, some black. You consider turning back, but they pay you little attention. After a couple of grunts, they run north. The river is not wide, yet unusually deep, with banks altered by the locals for decades, if not centuries. The water is cold and clean, yet filled with long plants growing from the bottom. You would rather avoid jumping inside or drinking from it, but you're tempted to at least wash your face, neck, and hands. Dozens, if not hundreds, of small fish are looking for tasty leaves, but also trying to avoid their predators. A dance of life, completely unaware of your presence. You suddenly realize there's something else buried among the kelp. A rusty sickle sticking out of the ground, a couple of stone axes and hoes. The wooden handles in a large wagon are covered with moss, but you recognize their shapes. Why would someone drop them here? On the opposite bank, the meadow turns into a thick forest, impenetrable for a rider. I would like to set up a fish trap, please. You place the basket on the ground, then grab a bowl and start digging, looking for a few larger worms. You bait the stick and push it inside the basket, locking it between the sides, then covering the entrance with the lid. Tying it together takes you a few good moments, but will be easier later on. You attach the entire trap to a bush and push it into the stream, far enough that it sinks entirely. Who knows how long it will take before something large enough swims inside. Still, it would be better to not wait for too long, otherwise the prey may die of hunger. I wonder if washing myself in the river is going to scare fish. Wait for 30 minutes, I guess? Wash myself. The living stream filled with fish and plants won't help you much. The oak ash soap you own can help you get cleaner. Nope. Now what? Don't know. Let's go travel. You enter the wetlands. With their many streams, ponds, and fish, large birds run and fly between the gray, sparse trees that are covered with moss, mushrooms, and critters. For a human, it may be an unwelcoming and harsh realm, but the overwhelming swarms of insects prove that it's a realm full of life. The danger with teeth and claws is hidden below the water's surface. I stay away from the banks. This plant shouldn't be alive, not without leaves. It doesn't resemble the other trees of the wetlands, it's something else. You get off your horse and prepare your axe. The water is filled with dirt and dead plants, and it smells like an old corpse. Ugh. The roots are spreading far, breaking through the water's surface. You don't see any saurians in the grasses or on the shore. You approach the table-like altar made of 3 limestone slabs. Were these rocks originally as formless as they are now, or was there a point in time centuries ago when they were precisely shaped and decorated by masters of artistry? There's no way to tell. Starbucks is peacefully observing the dark grass and slapping flies with his tail. Whatever it is that you feel in the air, it's clear that your companion sees this place through very different eyes. I'm gonna ask my deity, if I do believe in a deity in this, for help. You bow your head, trying to imagine an appropriate ritual. Whenever you start a thought, it runs away to the sounds of insects, visions of predators, smells of the muddy water. You rub your hands, focusing on what's in your grasp. Collecting your wits slowly. It takes a few moments, but you start breathing without sensing the stench. You arrange all the chaotic images into a cohesive utterance. Your prayer is brief, but once it's done, you feel prepared. Let me approach the altar. There's clumped dirt in the uneven nicks, fused by years of winds and rains. The bottom surface of the table is dusty, but you don't find any spiderwebs or mold, even though it's a perfect spot for them. The tree roots cling to the altar in many spots. They're firmly attached. You struggle to move them even by an inch. The cream-colored limestone is smooth and cold. I don't want to make an offering. You don't see any creatures nor humans. I look into the water. You step cautiously without knowing how deep it gets. You have to consider that a saurian could be camouflaged in the mud, waiting for a victim to get near. Since you don't plan to kneel down and drink, you're hoping to dodge a potential strike. Once you get closer, you start breathing again. While the water is dirty, it's also shallow. You see the vegetation, swimming insects, and even small fish. All of them stay away from the tree roots, which look like a spiderweb covering the bottom of the pond. Aside from that, you don't see anything that could catch your attention. I take a closer look at the roots. You kneel in front of one that's lying on the shore. It's brown, covered with hair that resembles that on your arm. When you touch it, it's moist, soft, and warmer than you expect. I'm not gonna touch it. I stand up. It really wants me to look at the roots, but I'm like, I don't think I want to. I think we should keep traveling. Oh, I don't remember if they said south or north. Let's go north. You slow down. Among the shrubs, a small pack of dragonlings is feasting on the carcass of a Dre Arak. One of them, with red feathers on its arms, straightens up and gives you a curious glance. Its head tilts left and right, forward and back. It screeches at you, but doesn't move forward and returns to its meal. You wonder what would happen if you were on foot. Would they let you be satisfied with their prey? Or would they run after you? But if so, for what reason? For now you have enough space to move forward, yet stay safe. The powerful jaws break the monster's bones loudly, then bite off and swallow chunks of meat. I ride forward, but I keep my distance and look over my shoulder. The beaten road serves your palfrey well. The forest to your left becomes sparse and brighter, and there are dozens of human-made paths among the fruit-bearing trees. On your right, there's a large pasture, but at least a dozen massive mouthlins. 2 of them already sheared look comically small. Soon after that, you ride alongside vast, flourishing fields filled with rye, still green, preparing itself patiently for the second harvest. The path ends with a massive wooden gate. The stone wall, separating you from the glowing lights behind it, isn't as tall as the roofs, but you can't imagine climbing to its top. There are pretty much no cracks, no missing bricks, a sign of many hours of labor, especially considering how massive the settlement is, as wide as any city district. The birds and monkeys are now just a distant echo, replaced with the sounds of carts running, hammers, saws, laughter, and shouts. Maybe I can rest here. A young man is leaning against the closed gate, covered by its shadow. He's young, tanned, and has a short, elegantly trimmed red beard. Beneath the green gambeson he wears an expensive tunic decorated with colorful trim. From his arm hangs a steel helmet, though the helmet is so thin that it's mostly made of wool and leather. He moves into the light and takes on the posture of a disciplined soldier, not a mercenary. He's standing upright with his chin up. There are 2 weapons on the ground. Leaning on the wooden beams of the gate, an axe made of steel and a wooden club. He doesn't reach for either. You dismount slowly, still having some vigor left. Starbucks holds its tail high. A narrow path leads north, toward 2 field workers. One with a hoe and one with a pitchfork. They wave to you. You can't see their faces, but their clothes are simple. Gray pants and vests made from hemp and wool. I wave. Why not? They talk for a bit, looking towards you and pointing at your mount, then walk away, disappearing behind the wall's corner. The guard smiles, yet avoids your eyes, and has to clear his throat before he speaks. Welcome, traveler. Ah. If you're near here to make trouble, Howler's Den welcomes you. We have the whitest flower here. There is. When you bow, you realize that it's a well-practiced performance. If it's new garments you're looking for, you can order everything you need right here in all colors, shapes, and sizes. Capes, boots, vests, robes. Or if you're yourself a master of the needle, I can assure you we have the fabric you're looking for. His act is over, and he glances at your mount in a moment of silence. His eyes get wider as he observes with a childlike fascination. I'm Ghosty, your new Roadwarden. I want to see your mayor. A city folk, eh? The mayor is busy, but I'll ask her. Give us a moment and I'll let you in. He knocks at the gate, which is then pulled inwards by 2 other guards, a man and a woman wearing their own gambesons, similarly green but tailor-made to match their figures. The nearby buildings are simple houses made of wooden beams and covered with thatch, while the storehouse is even more modest, with a roof made of planks. The watchtower has a ladder made of ropes and sticks. No stairs. Just give me a moment. The guard strides away before he finishes the last word. The others close the gate behind you and observe your mount carefully. Your eyes run east to a humming creek running through the center of the village. I await for the return of the messenger. Calming sound, eh? That's Howler's Creek. The guard, like most of the locals, is taller than you. Wide but shallow. There's never been a flood in years. Pa told me there used to be night bridges. Neighbors crossed it with their boots in their hands. And 'tis clean like a raindrop, but there are nae many fish. We're the cleanest village in the north, her companion chuckles brightly. When the guard returns, he's still alone. She can come now. A friend of mine is in labor, The mayor wants to be there when the child arrives, but I was asked to show you the village. I nod. He approaches the watchtower. Tie your mount here, we'll keep the kids away. Most of the neighbors are getting ready to celebrate. Once you're done, he grabs the rope ladder. The view from top there is gorgeous. I climb after him, I nod, and think of my knife. If it's a trap, I'll get him first. Just in case. Even though the ladder swings in all directions, the guard gets to the top quickly, like a monkey climbing up creepers. You, on the other hand, need to stop and wait for the ladder to calm itself. When you join the man on the wooden platform, you're a bit dizzy. He's leaning on the wooden parapet, observing the area with a smile, with no weapon in sight. I look around. Yay! See, there's not a place like Howler's Dell. The guard points in every direction, giving you no time to contemplate. For the next few minutes, he describes the fields and their crops, the flocks and the pastures, and the shepherds inspecting the fences, the ancient garden of trees and bushes, larger than the village itself, the sunlight dancing on the stream to its own tune. If you are to believe everything he describes, this place has access to everything in abundance. The sweetest honey, the most extravagant bread, the softest wool, and the bread, beer, it is excellent. He sounds like a city merchant who's trying to sell an old house. Ah, what an annoying kid. Near Havelven, you could find 5 larger and richer settlements in less than 2 days. That is true. Lots of work they went into this, but I feel like the reason why they're pushing how awesome it is to get people to stay, so that they can have the village keep growing. Which is good for business for me, so you know. The islet in the middle connects both parts of the village. According to the man, the northern gate is hardly ever opened as it leads nowhere now. Near the eastern gate, there's the Ape Ale Inn, where you can find a bed and victuals. In the stall where Akikios, whatever, roars your work, unless we annoy him with pointless talk. He lets out a chuckle. On the opposite side of the creek, there's another white house. It belongs to Bion, the best clothier in the north. The priests live in the southeast, near the wall, but they do not talk to strangers. You also hear about the hunter, the cooper, I don't know. The fisher, the miller, the pie maker lives with his sister, the baker, the smith and her husband, the carpenter live with their kids. It almost sounds like a nursery rhyme song. Some of the larger buildings could accommodate 2, maybe even 3 generations at once. There could be more than 100 dwellers here. You consider stopping his speech, but he suddenly points at the islet again. There, see, the mare's coming, the one wearing the purple. You're free to join her, traveler. You climb down. You try to get down quickly, but 2 steps are enough to make you sure that it's a bad idea. You wait for the ladder to find its balance. You're relieved when you touch the ground again. You untie your palfrey and follow the guard. You pass a small pasturage, surrounded by a wooden fence, a few loose chickens, and a tethered boar. The fancier buildings are covered with whitewash coating and surrounded with vegetables, herbs, and flowers. The bridges are wide enough to carry even a wagon, but for Starbucks, walking on the wooden beams is far from pleasant. The islet is empty, but you notice an empty stall painted with the shapes of colorful flowers. To the second bridge! Along the entire path, you notice more and more people observing you, smiling, or casually greeting you as they're focused on their own tasks. Finally, you reach the main square. A large tree grows in the center, surrounded by dark water, held together by a thin wall, perfect for sitting, but the smell coming from the liquid makes you think of rotten eggs. The plant reminds you of the tree you saw in the south next to the swamp altar. In the north, you see the Ape Ale Inn. Ape Ale Inn. Why apes? Excuse me. Judging by the tables, stools, and benches outside of it, it's open for guests. The villagers are chatting and dining loudly, and you catch their curious glances. On the side of the dining area, the merchant is arguing with a tall, broad-shouldered worker. An old man is sitting by himself, eating a pie with a walking stick leaning against the table. A young woman is cleaning the empty mugs in the creek, speaking with a man at least twice her age. Maybe her father. I need a spot to tether Starbucks. There's a wide wooden roof right next to the gate that shelters carts, crates, and sacks. You move your mount next to a donkey to a beam placed here just for this purpose. Without a moment of hesitation, Starbucks starts to chew on the nearby haystack. You have some time to make sure it doesn't struggle with your bundles. You return to the inn. I look for the mare and approach her. She's sitting on a chair with a 4-year-old boy on her knees. She's holding his hand gently, showing him how to eat gruel from a bowl. It's not a cheap meal, though. You spot nuts, berries, and milk, and the added honey makes it yellowish. The kid is clean and quiet, and once he notices your arrival, he crams his mouth with a spoonful of oats. Now, love, the mare titters. Do not get distracted. She rubs the meal off his face. A few more spoonfuls, and you'll go help Papa in the kitchen, aye? She gives you a radiant, though apologetic smile, then turns her attention back to her companion. You observe her more closely. Her long, full-sleeved linen dress must have been dyed once in blue and once in red to achieve its dark, fancy purple, which would draw looks even in Hovlivin. From her left shoulder hangs a green woolen cape as thin as a shawl. The brown belt on her waist has a large steel buckle that portrays a running deer with unrealistically large antlers, growing all directions like tree branches. Give me a sec, I need a breath. Unlike her tribesfolk, she's pale, with powdered and rouged cheeks, and her lips match her outfit, though they're a bit closer to wine red. The thick gray strands in her long blonde hair look more like a fashion choice than a result of aging. Her eyes are the color of her cape, keen and vigorous. She's shorter than most people around, though would still be the tallest woman in most of the northern settlements. While she's around 40, her slim hands add fragility to her appearance. Even though her posture is upright, her legs confidently crossed, and her delicate voice assertive, she makes plenty of gestures, but her shoulders hardly ever move. I'm gonna do a quick save. I need no invitations. I'm gonna be respectful. I wait for as long as it takes. After a few more minutes, the boy lets out a gentle cough, and after a pat on the back, the mare puts him on the ground. You did a great job, love, but now I need to speak with our guest, darling. She addresses one of the inn workers, a girl close to 15. Take him to father, will you? Her tone suddenly gets firmer, leaving no hint of a question or suggestion. Yes, ma, she responds. Both her hair and her eyes are nothing like those of her brother, and neither of the kids resemble their mother. So you have a Roadwarden. Oh, so we have a Roadwarden again. Please sit down. She vaguely shows you the palm of her open hand, letting you pick any place you want. I'm here as a trade partner. Might as well. You have a good look at the inn's front door, leading to a cellar-like ground floor. It's dark, with crates and barrels covered with fruits and nuts and vegetables. The actual inn is upstairs, but the only people who go in or out are the workers, most of whom are teenagers. The mare observes your outfit carefully, smiling at you with kind approval. Once your eyes meet, she hardly ever looks away. I'm sure you're hungry. My husband will bring you something soon. I appreciate it. Do not mention it. Hunger makes me peevish, and the day is too nice for it. She taps her chest and looks at a flock of birds that fly above you loudly, heading south. As we're waiting, be so good as to help me understand something. Eva, if you're but a mercenary, I cannot imagine a single reason for you to choose this realm for your warring, not so long after Osterian's disappearance. That's no glory, no treasures to find here. Her pale fingers form a tent on her stomach, then clasp, leaving the 4 fingers pointing at you. You were sent here by the merchants. They want the peninsula. Might as well be friendly, because that's how they received me. I present Hovlevin's interest as an opportunity. You introduce yourself and touch on the more obvious sides of the potential deal with the guild and the city chief, the troops, their pay, and the patrols they would establish, the overview of taxes. Trade routes would bring new life to this place. You try to sound warm. It's a win-win. Throughout your speech, the mayor observes you patiently without interruptions. I see, she finally responds. As she observes your palfrey, she twists her deer buckle left and right, left and right. If it was that simple, I'd be eager to applaud, but it never is that simple, is it? Her eyes fill up with melancholy, despite her smile. I appreciate that you're coming with a carrot, not a stick, but when it comes to the guild, there's always a catch. Her accent is now almost identical to the one used in the city. I would like to do both these. Why do they have to be different? We can negotiate. Oh, I wouldn't dare to trust some coin-hoarding trolls. She laughs at her own joke. They would devour the walls that defend them if they could, and I know some of the shitty tricks they use. Here, listen to this one. She theatrically clears her throat, patting her chest with one hand and covering her mouth with another, then leans forward and rests on her elbows, allowing her hands to freely make gestures. You make a deal with a settlement, flour and wool in exchange for coin and tools. You send the first traders, and they imply that you're ready to pay more for, let's say, parchment. Months later, you want no more rye, just the parchment and wool. We can butcher any more mouflons, the locals say. Don't worry, you answer. We'll send you a small flock. Just turn one of your fields into a pasturage. As she pretends to speak as different characters, her voice comically shifts, and she has no issue switching between accents. You encourage her with a kind smile. She swings her hand above the table. Another year goes by, and while there's no more parchment, the village lacks some crops. The tribe needs not just tools and coins, plenty of coins, but also seeds, and the guild is not satisfied. Sending our wagons costs a lot, and there are no more highwaymen now. If you want us to come again, you need more mouflons, and to sell us their cheese. And guess what? With a haunting laugh, she straightens up and spreads her arms like someone a third her age. Turns out that the village can't say no anymore. They lack supplies, seeds and land. They can't refuse. It's better not to say anything stupid. I have no doubt that a smart leader like yourself is going to protect your people from these games. Yeah, no shit. I would hope so. But if I smile, it's going to seem too much like a kiss-assy or whatever. But I do enjoy her theatrics. I don't know. I enjoy your theatrics, because I totally agree. I know the situation. I'm not saying that I have a village that I'm looking out for, that I'm a mayor to. I'm just saying... In the corporate world, it's not much different. All these promises, and then turns out... didn't work out. Oh, how wonderful. Keep the compliments coming. No soul in the square reacts to her loud laughter. But all that doesn't mean I can counter every single city ploy on my own. That's the good thing about living here with these kind people all around us. She nods toward two little girls that are carrying a basket filled with vegetables between them. If some of us struggle, we will have to deal with the consequences. We all struggle, but we all benefit. But Havlavan, if they see profit in chopping off our arms, they'll sell them to the first bidder. She gives you a sad glance, but cheers up after a sigh. Let's finish the introductions. I'm Matthias, one of the keepers of the Ape Ale Inn and the mayor of Howler's Dell. I assume it would be convenient for you to take my answer back to Hovlavin. She wonders for a moment. Say, when could we expect the first caravan? After winter? Depends on what you can sell and what you want in return. While the conversation goes on, the food gets served. The refreshing aroma of roasted mutton covered with a thick sauce made of mint parsley and honey tempts you to bite in right away. The juices are sinking into the ground trencher. A plate made of simple brown mead. Excuse me. There's also a small bowl filled with chopped red radishes and a thick sliced boiled egg and a mug filled with cold buttermilk. It's all brought by a few young people, all of them referring to the mayor as their mother. And in the end, the innkeeper himself shows up to wish you a good meal. He's wearing a clean orange tunic and a not-so-clean apron made of hemp. He introduces himself as Eric's, and after confirming you won't get sick from what he prepared, he leaves you and his wife to your conversation. Thais tears the meat into smaller pieces, then eats slowly, often expressing her enjoyment with a hum. Meanwhile, we get to the important stuff. Sounds like the nearby ground is fertile. The village would gladly pay its taxes in grain and vegetables with the expectation that a squad of soldiers would provide additional protection. Our youth is strong, she claims proudly, so we don't need your guards on our walls, but a lone Roadwarden won't keep the roads passable. We need fighters willing to patrol the paths, maybe even the heart of the woods. That's what we'd expect in return. You're not an expert when it comes to linen, cheese, and wool, so the mayor spends a good couple of minutes describing the outstanding quality of what the village has to offer, especially the clothes, which are meant to be as unique as those made by Master Crispus. You vaguely recognize the name of this tailor shoemaker, but you've never earned enough to pay him for as much as a single sleeve. And of course, we will never reject some steel and bronze. We lack alloys. I think it's alloys, but it could be alloys. For sickles and scythes. She then repeats her question about starting a trade route. Truth be told, the guild is not sure what the peninsula has to offer. It's going to take more than your village to convince them. Understandable, but you won't find much in the other tribes. They have barely enough to survive, even after they trade for our crops. For we have the only decent soil in this realm. At least the people of Gale Rocks have salt and barrels of fish, while Creek sells meat and wood. Actually, if you haven't been in Creeks yet, the furthest village in the northeast, you could give them a chance. She nods with a smile. They could use your help with keeping their roads safe. White Marshes, on the other hand, as well as Old Pagos, are close to worthless. For a trade route, that is. She clears her throat. After these words, she stands up, walks to another table, and offers her trencher to an elderly man who sits there by himself. With a trembling voice, he thanks her, then starts to chew on the soggy bread. She sits down, wipes her hand into a clean cloth, adjusts the folds of her cape, and once again crosses her legs. So tell me, Ghosty, how's Hovlavin? I haven't gathered much news since the invasion. Not everyone has their own bed, but the new generation is ready to start their own fight. Well, telling her the truth is not going to convince her to start trading. Thanks, stay Hubble. That's what it be. I was hoping to hear that. Her smile shines with kindness. I thought they were done for, losing all those ships and getting cut off from so many tribes. I'm surprised the soldiers didn't butcher all the priests and traders to fill their stomachs. It felt so unavoidable that I even came back home, afraid for my life. But I still carry memories of that place, most of them warm. I'm glad the others haven't given up. Her smile fades away and she speaks without looking in your direction, giving you a moment of rest. The first time I crossed the city walls and saw the streets, my soul saw them as if they were made of dragon bones, not stone. All those people, and all the noise, and high houses and this life happening all around me. But after only 2 years, everything collapsed. For the first time in human memory, like a burning dollhouse. She pauses, rests her hands on her stomach, and turns back to you. But don't let me drag you away from your duties. How can I help you, Ghosty? Please tell me about Asturian. Please. She stares you in the eyes, then turns towards Starbucks. Is your palfrey a mare? We have 2 jacks. Could use some mules. I won't give you anything stronger than a hinny. I'm looking for a Styrian. I'd heard you, but he's not welcome here. Her voice is harsh, and I don't know where he went. We haven't burnt him or fought his awoken shell. Wherever he is, a long pause, it's not our problem. What are his wrongdoings? If you have to know, he failed and won't get a second chance. He was meant to escort Aegidia, a daughter of mine, to her betrothed in Gale Rocks. She was a great archeress, and the road from here to the coast is not that dangerous. When they saw goblins on the road, Asturian ordered her to push through, right into their trap. She touches her deer-shaped buckle. They got jumped like a bunch of wealthy pilgrims. A Roadwarden, with their gruel, should know better. He can fight with a blade, but my girl, she never had a chance. She sighs and looks at the gate. He disappeared soon after his pitiful attempt at apologizing to me, and we closed our doors behind him for good. I'll let you know if he ever tries to return. Did you find your daughter? For a few breaths, her green eyes seek something in your face. Her words are careful yet hesitant. She's with the frogs now. Fogs, not frogs. But you get the idea. Maybe she's croak. The goblins were after food, so they carried her shell away. Ugh. One day she's going to charge at our walls, awoken and empty. Even though she was a bit mawkish, her heart was strong and patient. She listened to people, was ready to help them and to cry with them. I can tell you stories, but what for? Let the dead rest. You have quite a big family. She teeters weakly. At one point, there were 12 kids living in our house. 9 girls, 3 boys. They come and go, as it should be. A few are already with the forest, but most are all grown now, even started their own families. She looks away at a girl wiping spilled milk with a wet cloth. To be perfectly clear, they aren't exactly our children. It's a custom of our village for the mayor to look after the orphans. Thankfully, Eric's has a big heart, and much more patient than I do. As she speaks, her smile widens. Any ideas where I can find him? She addressed her cape with an annoyed shrug. Try asking for him in the north. He spent most of his time between white marshes, gale rocks, and creeks. Here, he wasn't that eager to share his plans. I'm not going to ask, why did you let him leave? Thanks for the help. I wonder, back in Havloven, did you spend any time in Backwood Corner? It used to be this dark, dirty alley, with muggers working, quotation marks, even in daylight. I stayed there with Octavia, the miller, in exchange for doing chores for her. She had this small wooden hut. Since the war, even the soldiers have avoided that street. People say it's a home for thugs. It's now a respectable street, with one of the fanciest inns, the Apple and the Boar. It would make you feel like you're in the old days. The Boarhead Inn is almost 50 years old. Am I just, like, making this up? Why so many different things? Make it out to be good, I guess? I don't know. Describe how a family of southerners started a large shipyard right next to the alley, working on exotic boats in unusual shapes. Needing hands to work, they offered food and coins to many local thugs, and with time, more lightened stalls showed up in the alley. As you describe the new inn, Thias bursts into cheerful laughter. So it's the same family that ran the Boarhead Inn, and to think that I dare to doubt the old lady's endurance. People like her, brave enough to bear the toil of the world, are going to bring salvation to all of us. What would it take to make you consider joining Havloven? I can consider it right now. While she laughs, her eyes remain keen. But if you want me to give you some answers, let's see. She looks up and to the right, theatrically raising her hand to her chin. Some gestures of goodwill would be a great start. Since you're the guild's messenger, I need to know you can be relied on. She gives you a wide, white grin. And that's the only first step, I assume? Of course. Do you even have the power to handle tax negotiations? She scoffs loudly at your head shaking. Do enough for my village and I'll hand you a beautiful shiny letter. A list of all the things your neighbors are looking for, as well as what they can give in return. Your superiors are going to see more than enough to prepare their offer. She rubs her hands. I think that's fair. Doing enough for the village is a bit vague. She nods towards the people gathered by the tables. I'm not the ruler of this place. My friends trust me because I see things as they are and I'm willing to act. Prove that you're helpful, and they'll be happy to match your efforts. I want you to succeed. She puts her hand on her chest, but we don't give strangers more than we can get from them. If you want me to argue in your favor, show us your worth. Looks like we're in agreement. Perfect. One more thing, though. She puts her elbows on the table, leaning closer to you. If you go behind my back, I'm not going to wait for a dagger. I'll end you first. She rests her chin against her open palms, giving you a disarmingly warm smile. I'm sure people already know that we have a new Roadwarden. Maybe ask around to see if anyone needs your help. The more my neighbors trust you and need you, the more willing they'll be to offer you better pay. Well, let's start here. What can I do for you? Ah, so kind of you to ask. But before I ask you to turn, let's see how you can walk, shall we? Her eyes wander left and right, and she gestures for a nearby guard to move away. He nods, then gestures at a few other souls to follow him. While a few of the locals cast curious looks at you, they turn away as quickly as you notice them. Ah, what are you doing? The mayor's shiny green eyes are still locked on you, and her voice is close to a whisper. Since Austerian's disappearance, there's little trade on the roads, and not much news reaches us. Be so kind. Her flirtatious tone distracts you from how obviously fake it is, and help me learn some interesting tales about our neighbors. A smile back at her. You mean ones that weren't meant to reach you? I'm not a spy. Yeah, no. I don't think it's really a good idea to... What is it called? Long story short, in a cult, you're always going to have people who require other people to just like tattletale on everyone else, right? And that's what I get from this vibe, is that this village is actually a cult. So I don't want anything to do with that. But I do feel like I need to secure the merchant connection. The trade connection. See, I knew that deep down you're a true sage. She titters and straightens up, adjusting her cape without haste. Do you have something to share? Maybe this will be helpful. The soldiers who came here in spring were meant to find a good spot for a new outpost. She smiles widely. You don't say. Knowing that, I'll prepare a few very tempting suggestions for the officials. After she seals her lips, she still lets out a quiet chuckle. Now, not telling her things isn't lying, it's just omission. That's all I have to say. Tell me, how do people dress in the city these days? Is it similar to what we have here? Before the war, the merchants were wearing those really long dresses and robes, way too long for my taste. They got mud stains after every rain, and I see no reason to keep shoes completely hidden. There's always a shortage of fabric. Most people wear tunics. For years, there was not enough hemp and wool at hand. Yeah, there's the furs. As far as I can tell, many folks wear headgear. I don't pay attention to fashion, but I think this is true based on what we've learned from the pelt. It seems like there's a lot of money in furs right now. And I think that her capitalizing on fabrics and wool would be a good business venture. Now that's just sad. When I was there, only the monks wore them for some reason. I've no doubt that the vengeful beasts have thrown the roads into a nightmare. The city folk would be smarter putting on rags. Even though she sighs, there's a cruel satisfaction in her smile. Can we please talk about the ruined village south of here? Her tense gaze shifts into an awkward click of her tongue as she leans away from you. I don't even want to think about their tragic fate. No one can negotiate with the wrath of the herds. A long pause, and I better not find you upsetting my neighbors with these sad questions. It was a challenging time for all of us, a wound we won't forget. I saw a weird tree south from here, the one with the altar standing in front of it. She straightens up and raises her chin. You mean Beholder, the guardian spirit of our wetlands. Every fall we bring our gifts, and in return it provides us with the blessed fruit, the flesh of the forest. She stares into your eyes. It's older than the oldest books and the oldest thoughts. The druids help us honor its sleep and show us how to ask for its help. Neither of these rituals, she scoffs, would be of use to you. I was in Pelt of the North. The innkeeper feels uneasy about Glossia's band. When you mentioned the raids on the northern villages... Oh, whoops, I thought she was talking. When you mentioned the raids on the northern villages, her eyes narrow. Are you sure? It's the first I've heard about it. Glossia has been around since years back, but she's not much of a nuisance. I'm just a messenger. He is asking for you to join forces with him. Well, I can't give you my answer. I won't ask our hunters to endanger our lives in the pursuit of some gossip. I could ask around. She sighs with exaggerated relief. What a splendid idea! There are only 3 villages in the north. White Marshes, farther north by the western road. Gale Rocks by the northern coast, and creeks in the far east. Bring me news from these places, and you will get my answer. I'm paid for passing the message from here to Pelt of the North. Asking me to ride for you through half of the peninsula and back is a different deal entirely. She lets out a brief chuckle, but her eyes observe you carefully. And how much are you being paid, if I may ask? 2 dragons. That's a lie, isn't it? Unless dragons, it's gold. Let me check my inventory real fast. Food rations. Doesn't say. I don't know. Two dragons it is then. And I'll pay you another 2. Fair? Fair. We talk and talk, but I still don't know where you are from, Ghosty. What's your story? Have you lived in Havlaven your entire life? I know it as well as any other city block. Only for a bit. Yeah, nothing too interesting. I'm from the city, and I train in horsemanship, and I'm interested in money. I was just about to ask about it. I couldn't imagine someone building a stable and a paddock in a place where you can't squeeze in a single new house. Your accent is very city-like, that of a merchant. You seem to be fairly well off, even more so than the other people in the village. She reaches for a buckle and her voice grows cold. There's no secret, traveler. That's hard work, risks, and sacrifices, and the support of those that care about me. The good things that happen to me shine on my people just as much. Think about it before you mention it again. She adjusts her cape. Tell me about Hallersdale. If it is what it seems like, the greatest village in the far north. It is what it seems like. She raises her hand and makes an inviting gesture. Though I hope it's still improve this and that, she winks at you, but suddenly interrupted by the pained cry of a little boy who hurt his knee during a fall. As an amused elder tries to calm him down, the mayor shrugs off and titters. Then meets your eyes again. Sorry. Life's good here. We have what we need and a lot of what we want, building on top of more than 12 generations of hard work and bravery. She spends a good few minutes telling you about mufflins, wheat, rye, hemp, cheese, and wool, proud of every glimpse of prosperity. Whenever she mentions an artisan, shepherd, or farmer, she doesn't miss a chance to mention how significantly she improved their conditions. She also omits some topics. You hear of no tales, songs, ancestors, rituals, or days of prayer. It's like listening to a tax collector. Only at the very end of her speech does she mention the wisdom of the elders, now kept in the teachings of the druids, who help her guide those who trust her. They heal our wounds and our gardens, she explains, but then changes the topic to all the fruit trees, hares, and nuts in the woods. I nod politely. I keep thinking, surely city folk don't eat just wild game, salt fish, and goats. What animals do people breed in the nearby villages? I don't know. Ibexes, I guess. So just like the old days, I even saw some of them in the city. They are annoyingly good at climbing onto roofs and walls, but more importantly, she adjusts her dress and smiles, it means that our mufflin, cheese, and wool are going to be quite a commodity. Did I ask about the necromancers already? She taps her fingers on the table. Yes, I have. After you ask her to tell you more, she seems to regain her confidence. You mean white marshes, for sure. I don't know all that much about what's happening there. We avoid their lands if we can, she frowns. I shouldn't gossip about it with strangers. We can talk about it on another occasion. Everyone is so secretive about these guys. What the fuck? Tell her some news. She gives you a curious look. Maybe I should. Since they cleared that camp of brigands, they went so quiet I almost forgot about them. She rubs her chin with her thumb. I'm surprised they've managed to stay alive till this day. Sending such an inexperienced group here shows that the officials misjudged this land. She leans forward, and even though she smiles, her voice is close to a whisper. I wonder, why are you here? What pushes someone to become a Roadwarden? The more I talk to her, the more information she wants about me. This is worrying. I need to build connections with the local leaders. I'll be a new player in the merchant guild. I need coin to help a friend. I'll use the coins to retire early. I want to be remembered as someone who brought peace and order to the realm. So all of these other things... Interesting. We're gonna go ahead and just lie. She waits, expecting that there's more to be said, then lets out a nervous chuckle. Forgive me, that's something I mostly hear from children, not travelers. She observes you with keen eyes, but after another few breaths shrugs her doubts off. What else do you need? Do you need my assistance? First, I need to be sure you can handle yourself. Bring me some juicy rumors, won't you? And maybe talk with my neighbors. We could use a few coins or someone with a steady hand. Sounds great. Let's talk to Eric's. Even though the counter stands outdoors, it's not rotten or dirty, and you guess that like the other furniture, it's brought inside every night. Eric's approaches you with a smile and leans on its surface with his fists. He's portly and even taller than his neighbors. He's got freckles, short gray hair, and an elegant beard. His long woolen orange tunic has a decorative cut right under the neck and loose braids at the edges. How can I help you, traveler? His accent is heavy, nothing like his wife's. He stomps with a heavy boot and looks around as if he's just waiting to get back to his other tasks. His fingers are still dirty from weeding the garden. Do I need food rations? I'm completely full. I don't need to eat for a while. Coins. I have some good rations. A winged hourglass. No. Any rumors to share? Rumors? Not really. I have my own things to worry about. Neighbors keep their own company. Better for everyone to seek help from my wife or the four speakers, not in a mug of ale. Have you had any interesting guests? Maybe someone needs my help. You say it as if we expect travelers to get here any day now. I'll ask around. Come tomorrow. Any interesting guests? I don't know. He scratches his beard. There was one vagabond, but he was not here for long, and did not do much. A timid fellow, talks loudly, but is afraid of everything, especially the guards. His face is touched by flames. Oh, his face is touched by flames, sorry. That was still him talking. Has a big ballista, he says the word with a strange accent, smirking, and a large bird as his beast of burden. I do not know what to say. He shrugs. He went south and is most likely gone. Interesting. Who is this guy? Thanks. Let's talk to Akakios. Akakios? It's a weird name. The man behind the counter is inspecting a sack of flour, mumbling to himself and occasionally cursing. The other locals walk away, giving you space to talk, trade, and peace. Beevils, he points at a large dark blue insect that's trying to flee. Shit me fire, 'twas ground a few days ago. No pies for us tomorrow, looks like. He puts the sack on the ground. I'll take care of it later. A Roadwarden, I ever the mare cared enough to see you, and kids are lining up to look at your horse. Strangers are like ghosts to them now. He's wearing a simple brown robe with no hood, a rope instead of a belt, and modest trim made of green thread. It barely reaches below his knees, revealing his sandals and crude pants made of linen. At the same time, it's way too large for him and hangs from him like a bag. He looks like a poor vendor. He stands sideways to you with legs crossed, leaning on the counter with one hand and keeping the other one on his hip. He's around 40, short and a bit greasy, with a hump of beard and hair. His fingers are unusually long. I'm just gonna be kinda meh. I'm looking for a trader. You will not find much of a marketplace here, but you're at the right spot. Everyone brings here what they have in abundance, and I either sell it to the traders or divide it among the workers, builders, artisans. These things here are not mine. He runs his eyes over the crates and barrels. And I wouldn't call myself a trader. I'm just Akakios. But I can show you our wares if you want. He smiles gently and looks towards your pouch. Our shelves are getting covered in dust. We could use some dragon rings or treasures. My neighbors would look at you with a kind eye if you bring them new. How do you say commercy? Yeah, commercy. Commerce? He nods. Right, something like that. Do you have anything of use for a traveler? It is hard to say, What do travelers need? He clears his throat and turns away to have a look at his store. While some of the crates and barrels are empty, they carry an assortment of odds and ends. Tools made of wood and stone, pots, mugs, seeds, vegetables, fabric. It takes him a few minutes to look through the wares. He puts 3 packages on the countertop, and as he unwraps the first one, you recognize what it is by the shape alone. Tell me this not a beauty. He chuckles and lets you hold the shiny battle axe. Oh my god, it's a battle axe. The haft is long, but the head is light. I know what you think, and your eyes say everything. He praises the weapon loudly, but you barely listen to him. You see your reflection in the unused blade, as sharp as they get. You're not a smith, but you see not a spot of rust. When you take a swing, it takes hardly any effort. The leather straps holding the pieces together are just a decoration, and the handle is as smooth as glass, and perfectly fits into your hand. The man chuckles. You like it, aye? Now, I doubt you can afford it, but no worry, that's not all I have. Look at the rest of his stuff. His long fingers tap against the parchment windows of a lantern. Its frame is cheap, made of oak. "'Tis glued and 'tis quiet," he says, while shaking it in the air. "Not as fancy as the iron ones with wood, but you can carry it in caves without luring all the corpse eaters and goblins. Perfect for a traveler, just take a look." Inside the lantern, you find a place for a candle. Not a great match for people living in the wooden houses. "Had and glue are not easy to make, but I will not ask for more than four rings." The last sack is as wide as a saddle and 3 hands tall. It contains a whole bunch of undyed linen sheets. "We usually keep them for traders, but we could use a few dragon rings. And who knows if there's ever going to be a next caravan." He gives you a long look. "Interested?" "Depends on what you want for it." "A valuable commodity. Primitive, but convenient. I don't have a whole lot of freaking money left. And supposedly, sleeping at this place is more expensive than the last place. So I'm gonna pass." Is there anything I have that I can sell?" He gestures for you to gather your things. "This junk does not interest me. We're looking for what we can not make by ourselves, like iron or enchanted items. Next time, maybe." I pack my things. I bet you I shouldn't ask about Asturian, but I'm gonna ask anyway. That ever, though he was here more than once, he did not leave much behind. Smelly horror." He looks around, then spits on the ground. "At least he bought a blade from me." "Do you remember what blade?" "Sure, 'twas a special one, a sickle sword with a tip wider than 'twas at the grip, long as from fingers to shoulder, not a sword, not a knife. Single edge, brought his own steel to smelt for it." "What's it good for?" "More for cutting bushes, creepers, roots. It will na fell a tree, but 'tis a fine tool." He nods to a passerby, but his smile disappears as quickly as he had shown up. "Pathfinders use it. My pa used to have one as well. He chopped nuts with it. Nuts and mufflins." "So he took it to the wilderness." He shrugs. "Pretty much anywhere. There are hills from here to the coast and bogs in the north and the heart of the woods. Can I help you with it?" "Do you need help?" "Know what? There's something urgent. I need a medicament for my mother. Not that she's hurt or anything." He raises his open palms as if to show that he's not holding a knife. "She's a teen, wants to start hunting in the woods. I cannot teach her much, but I'd sleep better with her having a healing potion you have." He hesitates. "Almost 18 days. Bring me the potion before the last dusk, and I'll pay you 5 dragon rings." "And where can I find a potion?" "I can think of 2 places. The safer bet is beyond Old Pagos, on the mountain of the crazy monks. Crazy and boring. More boring than a mufflin, but they often brew with Numa." "Huh. You can also head south, east of the crossroads beneath Pelt of the North." "I've never been there myself, but you'll find a dolmen there, as old as the city. And this," he reaches for his clinking pouch and pulls out a massive iron key, "is meant to open some secret passage there." How do you know about that secret, right? "From a merchant. She's from south of Hag Hills. I was meant to pass the key to her friend, but he never showed up." And you've just been keeping this key?" I kept it with my trinkets and coins, that's all. We were planning to go there for years, but it's one of those things that you talk about and not do." His brief laughter turns into a cough. "I'll look for it." "Good," he smiles. "Anything else?" "About the potion." "Soon." Nothing for now. I should have done some more questioning. Oh well. We're gonna do a quick save. Approach Eric's. We have 3 hours. I'm going to leave the square. You're wandering around through the village. A couple of children covered in mud gathers by your mountain argues loudly about what's better, horses or donkeys. You smell the pleasant aroma of ground herbs as well as freshly baked bread. Let's go to the priests. You head south of the dead tree in the main square. See, I don't see a tree. Well, that's not the main square, though. There is a tree here, though, and it is dead. Before you get to the second thatched building, a large man stands up from a bench and gets in your way. He's close to 50, taller than most people you've seen in your life, broad-shouldered. His hair and short beard are brown, matching his elegant woolen robe. A thick club is attached to his right wrist with a leather strap. He left his sandals by his sitting spot. Many want to speak with our guides and teachers, he speaks with a solemn, strong voice, but you're no welcome here. Turn back, stranger. I'm your new Roadwarden. Are you sure no one needs help? His harsh look softens. We can handle ourselves. If that changes, Elpis will summon you. Can I ask why? You can. He swings his polished heavy weapon. You're from the outside and cannot be trusted. The boors and slaves of the United Church would crush us, if they had the chance. Before we allow you to spy on us, we need to be sure it's worth it. I don't want any trouble. He shrugs. Travelers bring their problems onto others. Their will means nothing. So be it. You're wandering through the village. A woman in a brown robe observes you from distance and walks away when you make eye contact. A washwoman is singing about the last sunbeams of summer, but her heavy accents make her words difficult to understand. Talk to Bion, or Bion. You follow the guard's directions and reach the whitewashed buildings standing on the western bank next to a small garden of flowers and herbs. It's well kept and clean, with a plain, beaten front yard, in parts covered with sand. Through the open windows, you catch a glance at the furniture made of smooth, almost shiny wood with hints of dark cherry-like red, decorated with carvings of plants. A woman in her 40s is sitting on a wooden bench. The table is covered with fabrics, threads, and needles made of bone and iron. She's sewing a long sleeve to what's going to become a blue tunic. You know, when you've been talking for like an hour straight, it gets hard. Her movements are quick and confident. Her brown, wavy shoulder-length hair is tied into a wreath-like braid, but other than that, her clothes are simple and inconspicuous. She doesn't have a soft leg. Her left leg. But you don't notice any cane. You observe her for a few moments until, without sparing you so much as glance, she encouraged you to speak with a grunt. I'm looking for a tailor. You found one. Her voice is low and she doesn't stop her work. Name's Bion. Could you answer a couple of questions? The boredom in her voice is palpable. I'm not a bard. Good luck. The druids don't want to talk to me. Bion can't really do anything for me. I'm gonna go to the innkeeper. I could use a room. Sure thing, he nods. My kids keep it cleaner than you'd find in the city. Just tell me when you're ready. I can't wait yet. Thank you. Rent is 2 coins. I feel like I don't wholly need to. Nah, we're gonna do it. Take what we can get now. Your first sleep ends, but your usual 1-hour break is instantly disrupted by noise. You stand up, walk to the window, and see the reason for the commotion. A group of workers is just outside the inn, drinking and laughing. Eric's, the innkeeper, is also among them. You could join them, but if you do so, you won't get a good sleep tonight, and after such a long day, you may end up exhausted. An opportunity to show I'm not an outsider. Oh, you did lose health. You lose track of time, surrounded by the smells of old ale and cold roast lamb. The excuse for having the celebration is the recent birth, the very same that was occurring when you arrived at the village. The young mother is exhausted, and is the first one to leave, but more than 10 people stay, poking at her partner with kind-hearted jokes. "Use the next week the best you can," says one of them. "No sleep for you after that." You may be a stranger, but your presence is welcomed with joy. The small talk is just as engaging as you'd expect from people who have already slept for 3 to 4 hours today, but there's something pleasant about them sharing their parenthood stories and plans for the future. The humming of Howler's Creek and the lights in the dark make you feel as if you belong here. And that's a delightful illusion, especially in a group of strangers. At one point, you're asked about your own journeys, though you prefer to keep most of them to yourself. One of the hunters encouraged you to strongly travel to creeks. "They're a fun bunch, you see. They love to meet new people, but be ready to wake up with a spinning head." You're one of the first people to get back to bed. You spend the night in peace, in a clean bed with a tightly shut window and a warm blanket. In the morning, you find a stool placed by your bed, covered with a fresh pie with deer meat. Ooh, onions and coriander. Ah. Once you get dressed and go downstairs, a young boy who's covered in mud and speaks unusually loud and enthusiastically mentions that Starbucks has already been brushed and watered. "Thank you." You nod, but he runs outside without noticing it. The innkeeper is sitting near the floor, from time to time carrying out another bowl with either stew or gruel. Thias is nowhere to be seen. Well, we're going to stop here for now. It was a very interesting day. I'm planning on going back to that village to check it out some more, especially since it sounds like the goblins sleep during the daytime. I also need to go check up on those fish that I left, or the fish trap that I left behind. Hopefully we can get some fish from that. We obviously don't need food right now, but maybe we can salt and preserve it, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, see you next time, hopefully. Adios!